and have some fun with it. So, make this official. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So, Arena Kings, a game we've been really enjoying as of late. Excited to check out more of it, and excited to see the first balance patch that has really hit the game, at least since I've been trying it out, and what I want to say since it really took off throughout this last weekend here in late December. So, we're going to go ahead and do a blind reaction in terms of all these changes that took place. So again, as you can see, pretty much all the characters, all the heroes, what they call heroes in the game, or kings even, I don't know. Anyways, all the characters getting a fair amount of changes from the looks of it. So definitely some tweaks being made, thanks to the feedback, I'm sure, from the community. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look and see what we're dealing with. So, I will start this out with, I have about 12 to 13 hours of playtime on the game. So, again, I haven't, like, grinded it for a very, very long time. And I've only played maybe 4 or 5 of the classes in total. So, some of the classes with these changes, I'm going to, just use more so common sense / what I've been up against them. Maybe what makes sense. But yeah, so... like, this is, again, a blind reaction of sorts. Do my best to give my personal take. This isn't a, this is the holy grail of patch notes overview, and you should take my word for everything. It always should be, up to your own opinion in terms of what you think in the end. But I'm here to give you mine and my reaction from what I see here. Is the music good? I think the music's good. If you're watching this on video, you probably can't even hear the music, so... as I got it muted for the VODs for obvious reasons, good old DMCA. But anyways, all right, let's get into it. Patch 1.0.5 officially. So they made some changes initially when it came to some technical changes, it looks like. Doesn't seem like anything too important. Items looted in game with a full inventory now delivered to your stash. As long as you have a stash tab, which I do, because if you purchase a standard edition or any of the other editions, then it gives you that huge stash tab. So if you have the free-to-play version, you don't have a stash, so that could still be an issue, I suppose. But if you do, then it'll go there automatically, which is nice. Everything else is kind of whatever. Alright, so let's go ahead and start talking some balance changes. So Assassin, aka Rogue, is the first one here. Bandage cooldown, reduced from 10 to 8 seconds. Bandage is the heal ability that a Rogue has. To help sustain, keep himself alive. So a 2-second cooldown reduction there, not too shabby. Dash cooldown reduced from 16 to 14 seconds. I believe that's the sprint ability, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull up the wiki over here on the side. In fact, I can just click this link. So I could just reference just to really make sure what the notes are and what we're looking at here. Because like I said, especially for some of the classes, I have played a little bit of Rogue. But still, some of the abilities, you kind of just call them by their other names, but we know them from World of Warcraft, whatever, rather than their actual name in game. So, just to clarify, so yeah, Dash is the sprint ability. It removes all impairing debuffs and applies Dash to yourself for 3 seconds. And it also increases your armor on top of that. Interesting. So, that got reduced from 16 to 14 seconds. So far, Rogue's certainly getting some decent buffs. Disappearing Act reduced from 35 to 30 seconds. I believe that's essentially Vanish. Is what we're looking at there. It re-stealths you. It's basically a saving tool. It re-stealths you, gets you away from danger, removes all movement impairing effects. They put that on a 30-second cooldown instead of 35 seconds, so pretty significant change right there. If you use it early, the chances are that it'll be up again to use this obviously that much sooner now. Thus giving the assassin that much more survivability. So, again, buffs across the board. Shroud healing received increased from 25 to 30%. Shroud, we're looking at, this is kind of like Cloak of Shadows ability. It provides a 90% damage reduction. It makes you immune to all harmful effects and increases healing received from all sources by 25% originally. Now we're looking at 30%. So, I don't know if this is the most significant change. Honestly, I feel like you would use Shroud mainly to... mitigate damage and as another kind of saving tool similar to Disappearing Act. You probably aren't going to run both of those abilities. Again, not very familiar with Assassin, but usually I would think you're going to look to only run one of these kind of really saving abilities, and both do that in their own right. Disappearing Act can be used a little bit as a damage tool too, I suppose. So maybe you could run both, but yeah, the healing getting buffed that you see from 25 to 30%, I can't say that feels like that significant of a change. So that one's kind of meh. Stealth cooldown reduced from 20 to 18 seconds. Again, I don't know if it's the biggest change here. The thing with stealth is if you're in combat, you can use it, but you'll come out of stealth very quickly as a result. So I guess there's that slight fade time that'll come into play, and you can do it a little more frequently now. So again, it's going to be an annoyance tool to go up against, but one of the less significant changes, I would say, when it comes to these. Temple Strike energy cost reduced from 35 to 30. So Temple Strike, we're looking at the it deals 368 damage, physical damage, and incapitates. So yeah, this is the gouge style ability. Incapitates, essentially, it makes it so the player cannot move or act. It basically stuns them. It's a form of a stun. However, if they take damage, it breaks the stun. So it's a little bit less weaker than a stun, but still a great crowd control tool for helping to get away, setting up CC on the healer, for example, as you're going for a burst on one of the DPS. The energy being reduced cost, fairly significant, I would say, from 35 to 30. So the chance that you're able to use that now, as well as some damage abilities, or say you set up with the, the stun, whatever the ability is called, kidney shot, or as I know it as, but daze. You daze somebody using that 25 energy as well as the combo points, and then you annihilate them, and then you could also set up the Temple Strike on somebody else, or the healer nearby as well. So, yeah, again, decent change. Whirling Knives energy cost reduced from 50 to 40. Cooldown reduced from 6 to 5 seconds. Whirling Knives, it applies the bleeding and the slow, the hobble, as they call it, for 2 seconds to all enemies within 22 yards. So kind of like a Phantom Knives ability, AoE damage. Reducing the energy cost to 40 and reducing the cooldown from 6 to 5 seconds. I mean, this is a pretty good buff. So this screams to me that this is an ability that they maybe saw underused quite a bit. And with how against a lot of comps, there's going to be at least 2 people nearby in the vicinity that would get hit by Whirling Knives. It also generates a combo point. So, yeah, I mean, going from 50 to 40 energy is quite significant. You have 100 energy, if I'm not mistaken, at max energy. So, 50 energy, that's half of your energy that you're spending. Where instead now, you only need to spend, 40% of the energy. And that in succession with the Temple Strike energy nerf. And I think that's the only other ability that got energy nerfed, yeah. But still, nerfing the energy it definitely allows the assassin to be a lot more versatile when it comes to what abilities to use. From my little experience playing the assassin, it did feel like that was a bit of an issue between the cooldowns and the energy cost of abilities, where you found yourself, just spamming spacebar and auto-attacking quite a bit as a result of that. So I think these changes, obviously all across the board, are all buffs, and that's pretty telling that the developers feel that assassins perhaps are underused, which I would say that's a fair assessment, especially when it comes to the melee class. Certainly warriors, or champions, excuse me, are the most popular, and then even the ret paladins, to an extent, the damage paladins, we see quite a bit of as well. So expect to see a bit more assassins now with this change, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but no, it's probably for the better in the end. So definitely assassins getting some fairly good buffs across the board, and I would say the viability of the assassins definitely gone up quite a bit. And something tells me, mixed with some nerfs on other characters, perhaps that champion is going to allow assassin to be seen much, much more. And speaking of champion, that's the warrior class. Let's start taking a look at that. Now, I'm assuming that champion got nerfs. Now, might be biased here, but the champions feel pretty damn strong. They arguably are one of the strong classes in the game right now, pending the changes that we see right here with what they can do. So let's see. So basic attack damage reduced by 5%. So right off the bat, yeah, getting a decent nerf right there. Crippling slash damage reduced by 5%. Yeah, let me pull up the wiki for champion, because I personally have not played champion, so I'm not very familiar with the ability names. I have a general idea of what they do, but so crippling slash is the hamstring style ability. Okay. So they reduced the damage on that by 5%. So, you know, that mixed with the auto attack damage reduced by 5%. Now the decapitate damage increased by 4%. Okay, so they increased that one. But a couple of damage nerfs on several abilities. You know, already, you know, overall damage is going to be nerfed as a result of that. But the decapitate damage increased by 4%. Decapitate's kind of like the execution style ability where if they're 25% health or lower, it guarantees a critical strike and it deals 150% more damage. So just the use of decapitate in general, increasing the damage by 4%. It doesn't feel like 4% is a pretty small number in individual, right? But it's one of those, as the game continues to move on, it'll certainly add up. So, but factoring in the what's essentially kind of a 10% damage nerf prior to that, overall, it feels like you know, a bit of a damage nerf to the hero certainly already. Enduring War Cry cooldown increased from 15 to 16 seconds. Enduring War Cry, we're looking at it's kind of a surviving tool for the champion. It's a heal. Heals 7% of the missing health and applies Enduring War Cry to all allies within 60 yards for 10 seconds. It generates 5 rage for each ally that hears the War Cry. So that's essentially how the ability works. It increases the maximum health by basically 700 and restores 2% of missing health every other second. So, yeah, a nice kind of defensive tool. The cooldown increased from 15 to 16 seconds. So we get an idea of how the designers, at least right now, are going to be making some changes. It's not going to be very big number changes. It's fairly smaller number changes, small tweaks, but it's them all together is what overall should make the game feel more balanced. Again, we'll see in the end how that is, but this is a nerf here. Again, we're talking 1 more second, which in the long run, like I said, yes, it could play a role, but going from 15 to 16 second cooldown, I don't think is going to really change much at all in the end. That maybe takes away like 1 Enduring War Cry and a very, very long match that goes into sudden death plus, but I can't imagine this being a change that's like, oh my god, champion's not good anymore. So I don't think that's that significant. Intimidation armor penetration increased from 14 to 18%. What are we looking at here? Intimidation armor. So it passively applies intimidation to all enemies within 30 yards. So lowers the armor by 40% and movement speed by 8%. So this is that kind of passive aura that a champion has. Increases the armor penetration. So pretty good, especially when you pair it with a ranger or a assassin, right? Who deal good physical damage. Even a paladin. Damage paladin, I believe, is more physical based. So I think this is one of those, you know, in pairing with another physical damage class, you know, it can be fairly significant. Again, as I've been suggesting, I'll keep reiterating, not the biggest number change, but a slight damage increase there for the whole party, including himself. My champion, my boy, what did they do to you? You're not a fan of the champion changes? So then that leads us to Resounding War Cry. Cooldown reduced from 45 to 35 seconds. So that's a 10-second reduction. That's like the biggest change we've seen so far. Resounding War Cry, as far as what it does, it increases the power by 48 and reduces all damage taken by 40% for themselves and allies. So the defensive tools of champion are getting buffed here. Between Enduring War Cry, excuse me, that actually got nerfed, so never mind. But the Resounding War Cry getting a pretty good buff. Usually when I see a buff like this, going from 45 to 35 seconds, this likely means a lot of champions aren't playing this ability at all. So between this and the Enduring War Cry getting slightly nerfed, I think this is the design team suggesting they want to make it a little bit more difficult of a choice of which of those abilities you want, right? Now, the thing with the Resounding War Cry, it does also increase the damage that you and your party output, as well as then the damage you take by 40%. So it is an interesting kind of mix of an ability there, where Enduring War Cry is more of just really purely defensive, right? It just gives you more max health, and it restores percentage of HP, and it lasts for much longer. It lasts for 10 seconds compared to the 3 seconds of Resounding War Cry. So Resounding War Cry really is a kind of a bursting ability. The fact it only lasts for 3 seconds, and on top of that, it gives you 15 rage for each ally. that here's a war cry, and I assume that includes yourself. So we're talking about 45 rage that you can instantly gain for casting this ability. That feels really good, right? Like that actually, again, I haven't played champion yet, so I'm kind of speaking off just in theory and what I've played against. But it seems like I could see this being a pretty significant buff to the point where definitely want to run Resounding War Cry and, set up, like, you got a mage partner, for example. You set up the sheep on the healer. We said, we're going to burst now. I'm going to pop Resounding War Cry. We're going to all deal, plus 48 power damage or whatever. And, look to burst that target down. But it's also a potential kind of shield wall ability with the 40% damage reduction. So it is very versatile in that sense, too. And the fact it's, again, 10 seconds less than before, I feel like this is actually a pretty good change. And certainly one where we could, if we're not seeing this ability a lot, we're going to start seeing Resounding War Cry a bit more now. And then that leads us in a Safeguard cooldown reduced from 25 to 22 seconds. What are we looking at with Safeguard? What is Safeguard? I don't see it here. Let's look in game because I do not see Safeguard at all. Warrior CPK. What are we looking at with Safeguard? They must have changed the name from the oh yeah, because it's not in the wiki. I'm looking in the wiki and I don't see the Safeguard ability. Interesting. So Safeguard, what do we do? Apply Safeguard to target ally for 2 seconds. If using an ally other than yourself, charge towards them. So basically an intercept of sorts, intervene even, is the equivalent there. Decreases the damage taken by 65% and increases movement speed. So it's a great tool. So either you can use it on yourself or you can give it to like your healer if they're trying to burst him. I mean, that's a 50% damage reduction, or 65% damage reduction, excuse me, on top of the 50% speed boost to help them get away. So we're looking at the cooldown reduced from 25 to 22 seconds. So yet another defensive tool that's getting a slight buff here for champion. So the overall theme that I'm seeing here is for champion, they're taking away the overall consistent damage, but they're increasing the utility as well as the burst potential, or those cooldown windows of when a champion's going to be effective. That's kind of the what I'm feeling, again, from not really playing champion at all. That's the vibe that I'm getting here from these changes. So, which kind of makes sense to me. Like I said, playing against champion, I would argue that champion's one of the strongest classes in the game, at least was until this patch. We'll see, but I like the idea that they're making it more about utility and team-oriented based rather than just simply spam damage for the whole fight. So, what's up, Sunshine? We're going over the patch here. That apparently just hit this morning, I want to say. Yeah, early this morning, 6:20 a.m. All right, so that's Champion. Let's go over Elder. Now, Elder's one I am very familiar with in terms of playing it quite a bit. So, not a lot of changes, but something tells me Elder got some nerfs. There's a lot. I feel like out of most classes, Elder probably gets the most complaints. I don't know if I necessarily agree with a lot of the complaints, but Elder Healer, a good Elder Healer can be very difficult to kill, and the freedom they have to not really cast a lot of heal abilities and use hot base, similar to a Druid in World of Warcraft, makes them, fairly potent, pretty powerful. So let's see. Mending Spirit damage reduction per stack reduced from 3% to 2%. Healing per tick reduced by 2%. Mana cost increased from 200 to 210. I like this. We know you can't exit bear form. Yeah, I hate this change. When you're in bear form with not much mana, and then you go to get out of bear form, and it won't let you because you're out of mana. That seems a little... It doesn't cost mana, but it's like a bug, clearly, in the game. So apparently, I don't know if this means that this was changed or if they're going to change it, but I think this is them making the point that they're aware of it and they're going to attempt to change it in a future patch. But again, whatever, they'll take care of that. So yeah, really, Elder only getting one change here in the end, because this is also just kind of a bug fix that they did. Mending Spirit, hands down, one of, if not the strongest ability in the game as far as heals go. So I'm not surprised to see Mending Spirit getting slightly tweaked, and certainly a decent nerf, because how Mending Spirit works, you can apply up to 3 stacks of it on a target, right? So when you see this number of 3% to 2%, essentially we're looking at potentially 9% going down to 6% damage reduction. So what was 3 stacks before this patch is going to be equivalent to what was 2 stacks before the patch now instead, right? In terms of the damage reduction aspect of it. The healing per tick also reduced by 2%. So again, similar idea there where, the more stacks, it's not going to be as efficient, as effective with the following heals. So, and then the mana cost increase. I think arguably that's one of the biggest changes to it, because that I've noticed to be with Elder as well, one of the best mana efficient healers in the game, because of not only how he works with the hot base heals, but the inspiration ability, which is essentially Innervate, where you apply inspiration to yourself and you regenerate. It gives you mana, base mana, plus then 2.5% of missing mana every second for 10 seconds. So you're looking at 25% mana gain on top of the base that it gives you. So, it's obviously a very efficient tool, and it's a 60-second cooldown ability. So the match goes a little bit longer. You use it early, you're going to have it up later on in the match as well. It's going to allow you to keep that mana pool up and not have to meditate nearly as much as other healers may need to. But also having the hot base heals, you can throw up your hots, your Mending Spirit, and whatever other abilities. There's the Seed of Life, Serenity, etc. And then you just go drink, right? Or you pop meditation. Other healers can't do that as efficiently because they have a lot of, cast-based heals instead. So I like the idea of them increasing the mana cost on Mending Spirit, because again, it goes back to, it's not just one Mending Spirit. You usually want to cast 3 Mending Spirits on a target. So we're looking at basically 30 more mana spent per cycle of Mending Spirit that you want to apply. And I do think that's certainly going to nerf the hero. Is this enough to really take Elder out of the top tier hero list? Probably not. I don't think it needs to be. And like I said, I still think there's a bit of overreaction in general in the game right now. There's a lot of people with how they feel about it in certain classes. Is Elder strong? Yes. Is Elder just completely broken? No. I don't think any class in the game is completely broken right now to the point of they need to be absolutely changed or reworked or whatever. But I'm also somebody that likes to be a bit more patient on these things, because the game is still very fresh, very new, and we'll see, in due time here, especially when Ranked eventually comes out, what we're looking at when it comes to the meta and maybe what changes are needed as a result of that. But overall, maybe they could have done a little bit more to Elder, perhaps nerfed the bear form slightly. I do think bear form, that is one aspect of Elder that perhaps is a little too strong. You essentially get a free stun and a getaway tool as well as a rooting tool. Like, you get 2 crowd control effects, and on top of that, the shield wall buff that you can put on yourself. And on top of that, the fact that it heals you over time naturally as well. So yeah, like stacking yourself up with hots and then going bear form, it pretty much makes the Elder an impossible target choice in a lot of cases. Which, yeah, that aspect, okay, maybe they do need to tweak a little bit, but overall, I don't think it's too broken. So I'm sure we'll see more, but this for now is a decent nerf to the hero. All right, so Lich. Let's go over to Lich here. So Lich, the acid rain damage per tick increased by 4%. This ability, I don't see too much being used, but it's one of these kind of AoE based abilities. The acid rain coming down from the skies. It does poison damage. It also decreases movement speed of targets that are hit by it, and it deals maximum health damage. So percentage based there as well. This is nerfing the base damage of the ability by 4%. Again, not very significant. When you factor in it's hitting multiple targets, it is slightly more there, obviously, but still doesn't feel like the most significant change. Misma damage amplified per source reduced by about 10 damage. Let's take a look at that ability. Applies Miasma. That's a weird name. 8 seconds to the target enemy. Ignores global cooldown. Miasma deals magic damage every second and increases damage received from all sources by 27. If it's dispelled, it applies a silence to the target for 1.4 seconds. So It's kind of like an Unstable Affliction, a UA from World of Warcraft, it seems like, with a damage amp that applies to the target as well. So, the damage amplified per sword is reduced by about 10 damage. Okay. So, essentially, it goes down from damage received from all sources by 27 to 17. And with multiple targets attacking, again, that does add up quite a bit. So, this is a fairly decent damage nerf to Lich, and it takes away the utility of the hero by quite a bit, obviously with pairings of other heroes, whether it's, you know, a mage, a rogue, warrior, champion, etc. Assassin, excuse me. Try to use the official names for Arena Kings, but naturally, you know, gotta use the World of Warcraft names too. But anyways, point is, yeah, so some decent nerfs here for Lich as well coming out. Underworld Armor, health and mana restored per tick increased by 0.25 to 0.5%. I mean, that's a decent increase there, really, going from a quarter to a 0.5%. So both health and mana restored. So taking a look at that ability real quickly as well. So it heals you and applies Underworld Armor for 30 seconds. It reduces physical damage taken, and it restores 0.25% of your maximum health and mana every second. Now it's 0.5%. Yeah, this Underworld Armor actually seems pretty strong looking at everything it does. So the defensive aspect of Lich slightly buffed. The offensive capabilities and specifically the utility that Miasma brings to the table, a decent nerf coming out. We are seeing a lot of Lich. So, and again, this is one of those, I'm sure that the team has it, but it would be fun to see kind of a public representation of how popular all of these heroes are in certain MMR level games, and you know, to help us really get a good idea as far as, you know, are they really overpowered or not. But from what I feel like I've seen, Lich is one of the most popular classes we are seeing across the board too. So I guess what I'm getting at, I'm not surprised to see the nerfs coming out to Lich. The Acid Rain damage per tick increase, that really feels very minimal to me, to almost nothing. So I don't think that's even that big of a nerf at all. But this Miasma is what we will notice from the Lich, in my opinion, in terms of the hero being a bit less viable in the compositions. But still, overall, a strong option. And that Underworld Armor buff, too, Liches already have felt, you know, fairly difficult to kill in the first place. I think they also naturally just have more life than, say, a mage or even a hunter or a ranger. So, yeah, difficult target to kill as well. Nihilist. Lingering Demise execute range reduced from 25 to 20%. Interesting there. So this is kind of that execution ability, the big burst ability for it. Yeah, it's applied and for 7 seconds. And then at the end of it, it does that burst of magic damage. And if they're below, now 20% health, it guarantees a crit on top of that. So, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good nerf, right? Like, the chance of getting that big burst damage, basically execute damage, it's, instead of having them be 25% or lower, you now need to have them be 20% or lower. So, trying to time that burst and that window that you have to actually finish off the target is a little less now. So this actually seems like a fairly significant nerf here. That Miasma amplified damage from all sources is reduced by around 10 damage. So they also have Miasma? Wait, what am I missing here? Is that a mistype? I think this is a mistype. Because I don't see anything about Miasma on Nihilist. Let me double check in game. Oh, yeah, I think that's a mistype there. Okay. Then Orb of Smoke damage reduction reduced from 10% to 8%. So Orb of Smoke, it's one of those orbs that a Nihilist can put down. It increases the power by 82, critical strike by 6%, and provides lifesteal to all allies as well. I don't see anything about damage reduction, though. game. Oh, reduces damage taken by 8%. Yeah, it doesn't say that on the wiki as well. Interesting. So it reduces damage by 8% instead of, well, it used to be 10%. So, Nihilist is now even less tanky, unlike Lich, where they got more tanky, right? So Nihilist a little less tanky, and on top of that, that burst window nerfed as well. Excuse me. So Nihilist actually getting a decent nerf right here, probably one of the bigger ones that we've seen so far. Yeah, I think it's a step in the right direction, certainly. Another pretty well-represented class from what I've seen. Yeah. I will say this Orb of Smoke ability, I don't know if maybe a lot of the Nihilists I've been playing, I don't use it, but it doesn't seem like I've been seeing that orb a lot. I feel like maybe like Orb of Wisdom we're seeing a lot, Orb of Replenishment even, but not Orb of Smoke. I might be wrong on that, though. Anyways, that obviously getting slightly nerfed. Paladin. So Paladin, I'm very curious on this here. Angelic Strike damage increased by 3%. So already a little buff there. That's a damage-oriented buff. Angelic Strike, we're looking at the deal 710 physical damage straight up. Now a slight buff here, as we see with the 3% buff, so even a little bit more damage. And it has a chance to trigger Angelic Favor, which it's basically one of these things, one of these random things can happen. It gives you mana back, gives you health, or it applies a mini stun to the target, or even just gives you more damage that you've dealt. So interesting ability. It's like one of these random abilities that could even do a lot more on RNG chance. Huh. 4-second cooldown. Okay. Divine Light base healing increased by 3%. So Divine Light is that spamming heal that, like the flash heal basically, that Paladins would use. Even the damage-oriented Paladins, I feel like, run this as well. But yeah, so across the board, so far, some solid buffs. Again, we're talking minimal numbers here, but these minimal numbers can add up in the longevity of the game, certainly. Glimmer of Light healing increased by 5%. So, Glimmer of Light. What are we looking at with Glimmer of Light? Well, let's delete this. Oh. Hold on. Okay. Did a character crash you? Alright, so I want to look at this Paladin here. Let's see. Okay. Glimmer of Light. Heals target ally for 882. Critical heals causes you to be enlightened for 6 seconds. Okay. So, a very powerful heal. 25-second cast. Okay. So, what did they do to that? It increased the healing by 5%. So, healing Paladins, which do feel very underrepresented, is like you got Elders, Scholars, and whatever the other one is, you know, used quite a bit. So, I think Paladins certainly are underrepresented. So, clearly this is them making a point of, let's buff this hero's heal capabilities, which I like. Stream of Light base healing increased by 2%, so yet another heal increase. Again, the numbers, 3%, 3%, 5%, 2%, but especially all together, and if you're running all these abilities, you know, you're looking at essentially 10% to 12% more efficiency overall, right? And again, that adds up quite a bit. Last one, just a bug change. So, yeah, this is them saying Paladins, as far as healers go, certainly need some buffs, and they're starting to apply that. So, and again, the lower numbers I really like as well, because what I think is going to continue to happen by seeing these is the team is going to continue to obviously evaluate what the classes are doing and how powerful they are, but rather than overreacting with like significant number changes, they're just slightly tweaking at a time to, you know, try to hit that perfect spot. And that certainly is an effective way to do it. Obviously, the other way you could go the quote-unquote power creep method, where you just literally keep like maybe even buffing things, or you go over the top and changes, and then you nerf it later on, knowing that it's going to be really powerful, but you just want to get like a baseline of how powerful it really is, I suppose. So that's another way to do it, certainly, and you know, the MOBAs, etc., they do that as well. But I like the theme or what we're seeing here. from the team, certainly. So yeah, Paladin changes. I was actually going to start Paladin today, try it out, so even more reason to try it out now. Ranger elemental arrow damage increased by 3%. Let's take a look at that real quickly. Ranger feels like they need buffs. They feel pretty underrepresented in terms of damage potential. So already a slight damage buff there. The elemental arrow, you know, how it obviously can do multiple effects. So it applies burning and chill for 3 seconds, and it freezes them for 1 second. So pretty powerful ability on the 8-second cooldown here. On top of now the slight damage increase. So market death vulnerability increase from 6 to 8%. This is a passive that applies to all enemies within 100 yards that are below 25%. And if you're below 25%, you're vulnerable, which means you receive 5% increased damage from all sources. Well, it used to be 5. Now it's 6%, or no, it was 6%. Now it's 8%. So they keep buffing this ability a bit, and this is actually a pretty good buff too. This not only is it obviously important for the ranger themselves, but for the teammates, that brings out more utility to the table as far as finishing a target when they are low. So several of these execution style abilities certainly are pretty relevant in the game. Poisonous shot duration of poison and infection increased from 2 to 3 seconds. Again, small number there, but poisonous shot, it reduces their maximum health and healing received by 30%. So they actually do have this Mortal Strike style ability, and being able to apply for a second longer, very, very significant actually. This is probably one of the bigger changes we've seen in my opinion, because I mean that's essentially a 50% buff, right? Going from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. That's a whole nother second that you have to deal damage in this window where that player is taking 30% less health, 30% less healing from their healer. And on top of that, it's dealing slightly more damage because it deals 1% of maximum health every second as physical damage. And it keeps them slowed, etc. And the other thing to note is that it's a 7-second cooldown ability. So the window in which this ability is applied, you go from a 5-second window to now a 4-second window when it's not being applied, and then it lasts again another second longer. So this is a really big change actually. This is, again, on paper, from what I just am theorizing, this feels like one of the biggest changes of the patch, and going to the way of the ranger with this poison shot here. So I'm actually, I almost want to try some ranger now, see how good it is. Rejuvenation potion cooldown reduced from 30 to 20 seconds. Basically a nice heal tool for the ranger. A little more survivability now. 2 seconds, but still can use it that much more frequently throughout the whole game. Twisting shot damage increased by 4%. So yeah, across the board, rangers got some really solid buffs. Again, including this poison shot. Unless I'm misunderstanding this, which I don't think I am, this is probably the strongest change so far of the patch notes that I've seen. So I think Ranger has gotten the biggest buffs, definitely, of all the heroes here, and only a couple more to go. Scholar I play a bit of as well. It's actually the first class that I learned. Armageddon damage per tick reduced by 5%. So Armageddon is this AoE damage ability that Scholars can assist with and allow Scholars to be one of the better damaging healers, I think, in the game. So I'm not surprised to see this nerf of 5%. And being that it's AoE damage potentially, you know, a decent nerf. I will say Armageddon does apply maximum health percentage damage as well, so it's a little less significant when you think of it that way, but still, it's something. Gospel of Defiance damage reduction increased by 10 to 15%. Really? I thought it was already 15%. I guess I was wrong on that. But this essentially is a shield, a barrier that it would put on yourself and all teammates, and it would reduce damage taken, as well as do a couple other fun things. But it looks like they increased the damage reduction by another 5%. So it provides a defensive aspect of Scholar, a little bit more utility there. And the portal cooldown increased from 16 to 18 seconds. So the portal ability has been fun. It's that where you swap, you choose a target, whether it's an ally or an enemy, and you can swap places with them. Can can be used both very defensively or offensively. You could use it on teammates creatively. Nerfing it to 18 seconds from 16. Again, that's a solid change. That's a little less use of it throughout the match, and you got to be a bit more careful in when and where you use it, I suppose. But I mean, overall, Scholar is definitely getting I would say a bit of a nerf. Portal is a pretty significant ability, so this is a decent nerf, and so is Armageddon. Again, the Gospel Defiance, I don't know if every Scholar is using that ability even, let alone is it really that big of a change. 5% more damage reduction is fairly good, I guess, especially with all these number tweaks in general going on too. So, but yeah. They took away a lot of the offensive capability. Not took away, but they reduced the offensive capability of Scholar. Clearly figuring it was a bit too strong, which I could certainly see. So I still think Scholar is going to be very viable with these changes. The portal cooldown, you'll probably feel, though, a bit throughout. So, and then that leads us to Wizard, the final class getting some changes. Another one I am fairly familiar with as well. Fireball damage reduced by 2%. Fireball, you see mages spamming a lot. That, or if they're an ice mage, they'll spam, I guess, the frostbolt ability, whatever that is. Yeah, fire mages, so this adds up. You know, every single fireball being 2% less damage when you're spamming it, especially if you use, 10 fireballs in the match. You're looking at essentially over time, that 20% damage nerf. So, again, pretty big. Frostbolt chill duration reduced from 3 to 2 seconds. I think that's a good change as well. And applies frostbolt on that for 4 seconds on impact. Decreases. So basically, the chills the movement speed decrease, I believe. Yeah. So it makes the utility of the frostbolt a little less effective, and we are seeing a lot more frost mages, especially at the higher level, I feel like. And the stun procs that you can get, etc. That can be really annoying to go up against. So they take away a little bit of the crowd control source in that sense. Being able to run away from the wizards if they're just channeling frostbolts into you. Ice spike damage reduced by 4%, so that's essentially the ice lance, that spammable ability there. Or I guess not spammable, it's a 40-second cooldown, but the instacast ability that can deal a lot of burst damage if used correctly. So the overall damage decreased by 4%. Lightning Strike cooldown reduced from 16 to 15 seconds, and damage increased by 5%. So this is ability, I don't know if we've really seen a lot of mages use this, but deals 1100 magic damage to a target and removes one of their buffs. Interesting. So it's kind of like a purge mixed with some damage. It's a 7-second cooldown. But they are slightly buffing it when it comes to damage and decreasing the cooldown by a second. So actually not bad. It allows this ability to be a bit more relevant, and a single target bursting ability mixed with a 1-second decrease in the damage increase. I could certainly see it being picked now. Shock Nova changes cooldown. So this is one of the more annoying abilities in the game for sure. Cooldown has been reduced back to 0 seconds, but no longer deals bonus damage if shocked. Damage lowered slightly. So yeah, they've been tweaking this ability a little bit. It was upwards of even a 2-second cooldown, but now it's back to 0 seconds. However, it doesn't deal the bonus damage. So because that's what that shocked me. So say if you lightning strike somebody, it applies that shock debuff for 3 seconds. Or same thing with Shock Nova, it would as well. It doesn't do the bonus damage anymore. So it is instead now kind of just static damage, and it got even slightly nerfed with the damage it's putting out. I think that's good. It honestly might kill the ability as a whole, frankly, if that's the case too, which I don't know if it's a bad thing, but Shock Nova does seem like one of those it's going to be difficult to find the fine balance of, right, in terms of how to make it usable but not overpowered and annoying to go up against, because it is pretty lame just seeing a mage stand in the middle, run at people and just spam the Shock Nova ability over and over and over again. It's not really the most enticing gameplay, so Yeah, to me this seems like nerfs to the point of it's probably not going to be that great of an ability at all unless you have like a fun meme comp that's like AoE damage, but yeah. Teleport mana cost increased from 200 to 250. I mean, that's a big change. Because I will, and I say that because mages, out of all the damage dealers, I find mages having to drink more than of any damage dealer in the game. Obviously, you got warrior, assassin, ranger. They don't have to worry about mana, but out of the other ones, Nihilus, Lich, specifically, and even Paladin, wizards have to drink a lot more than those other classes, from what I feel and what I've seen. So increasing the mana cost of one of their most significant abilities in teleport means just that much more likely they will have to drink, and they got to be that much more careful in terms of when they go for these burst windows. And rather than just spamming Shock Nova, spamming Fireball over and over again, you know, you want to maintain that mana, right? So, and set up the kills rather than just spam. So, I love this change. I think this is also another great change and a step in the right direction for Wizard. All right. So, there's patch 1.0.5, ladies and gentlemen. Coming out right there. That was fun. Going over the patch changes. Overall feeling... I like I said before, I like the direction it seems like that the design team's going here. They're not overdoing it with a lot of these changes. It's a lot of the numbers are fairly minimal. They're trying to reach a you know, a happy medium in a lot of cases. And I think they did a good job in terms of buffing and nerfing in the appropriate places of certain classes that certainly needed it. Like I said, a couple points of criticism. Maybe Elder could have used a couple of more nerfs, specifically in the bear form. I think is one of the more argued about abilities. That's just being way too strong. Something tells me we're going to be seeing that in an upcoming patch, but other than that, I don't know. Nothing else really coming out in terms of what I would like to see. So I think, yeah, overall, a pretty cool balance change, a balance patch to see off the bat here. The first one that I've been a part of, at least. With the game, I know many others with the surge that we've just had with the game just recently coming out. So thank you for tuning in to the balance patch discussion on Breaking CPK, and be sure to tune in to my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/BreakingCPK, and also stay tuned to my YouTube for more of this Arena of Kings content likely to come out. So thanks for tuning in. Until next time. All right, stream. I'm not going anywhere.